And so for those who are watching virtually and for those in attendance today, this has a completely different format than a regular scheduled board meeting. There will not be quote-unquote action items this evening. This is a free flow of conversation between you as a school board, us as administrators, those who are presenting today. So you can see that we have a few agenda items to cover this evening. School board, please feel free to ask any questions, make any statements that you may have on each one of these. We have 6 agenda items to cover this evening. So first, we'll start out. We have some of our Mr. Parks and the high school students that are here this evening. So Steve, we'll turn it over to you and your students, and you can walk us through what you have for us this evening. So we know Mr. Park, but everybody around the table may not know the 3 students, so we'll start, I don't care which side we start on, ladies first. How about that? Ladies first, we'll have you go first. And then you introduce yourselves to us and what year you are, okay? And if you are a senior, what your plans are next fall. Good enough? And if you say, I don't know, that's an acceptable answer, okay? So, go ahead.
Okay. My name is McKenna Landrum, and I am a senior. So my college plans, I plan to go to Indiana Wesleyan and double major in biology and environmental science, and then hopefully move on to a graduate program for marine biology.
Touches? You're good.
It's great.
Okay. My name is Isaac Grog. I'm a senior as well. I have not committed to a university yet, but I plan on going to a university, and I plan on majoring in business, and I'm excited to see where that leads me. Thank you.
My name is Max Robrock, and I'm a senior here at Hudson North High School. I plan to go to Hudson University to study forestry and environmental sciences, as well as play baseball there.
Sounds like to me, Mr. Park, you've had an influence on your students here. So,
well, the good thing is I'm a senior as well, so I guess we all have that in common. Well, for those of you who don't know, my name's Steve Park, and I teach AP Environmental Science here at Huntington North High School. And each day, I'm honored to work with Indiana's finest, and you're looking at 3 of them right here. And so, starting probably a couple years ago, and then beginning really hitting the road running at the beginning of last year, a group of students were working with the mayor and some of the folks downtown, not by my pushing, but by their choice. And so they came to me and said, what can we do? And that's always a dream of mine when some students come and say, what can we do? That's pretty powerful. And so starting last year, there were a group of students that were on the Huntington Tree Board, the City of Huntington Tree Board, along with Catherine, who's in attendance back there. And we would just kind of loosely meet whenever we could, study hall time, lunchtime, whenever the kids could get together. And kudos to McKenna for kind of spearheading this. And so I've kind of just been along for the ride, I'll be honest. When you put 3 highly motivated people in charge of something, things get done. And they pull other students along as well. We've got some other students, members of our green team here as well in attendance. And so kudos to those individuals who are wanting to make a difference, not just for themselves, but for our campus and for the state of Indiana as well. And so what has kind of come out of this is a new club here at Huntington North High School that Dr. Deggett's approved a couple weeks ago. And also some information that they would like to present to you to to make sure that everybody is on the same page, basically. Some ideas, some dreams, some hopes. And so I'm going to stop talking so that they can begin talking. And I'm not sure, Cindy, if will that go to, okay. And so we're going to start off with our short-term goals.
Yeah, so our short-term goal, our immediate short-term goal is to get what is called Tree Campus USA recognition at Huntington North High School. And I don't know if anyone here has heard of the Arbor Day Foundation, maybe, yeah? Okay, so the Arbor Day Foundation, when it comes to nature, beautification through trees, and kind of just all things environmental, is one of the top organizations nationally. And they have this program called Tree Campus USA, where any school, hospital, or university which meets their requirements can, the requirements are quite simple, but if they meet these requirements, they can obtain the certification of a Tree Campus USA. So we have decided that we would love to meet those requirements and go for that recognition. The requirements are quite simple, as I said. All you have to do are some community tree planting. So our plans are to do that at, is it Crestview Middle School, correct? We're for sure going to do that at Crestview Middle School. And we also have to do some peer-to-peer education to engage younger students. A big thing, like as we've noted, we are all seniors. We are thrilled that we have this passion and this team to spearhead this, but we also are aware that we don't want this club or passion to phase out after we graduate. So a big part of that, and also conveniently a requirement, is to engage younger students, engage elementary students, engage middle school students in what it is that we believe and our passions for beautifying and creating a more sustainable campus. And then finally, you have to celebrate some sort of annual nature day. So whether that be celebrate Earth Day or what's the other one?
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day? Okay, there's a few options there, but just an annual celebration. And then we would, after we do these things, we would meet the requirements for the Tree Campus USA. So there's a few simple things, right? But something I want to know is, if I can draw your attention to the bottom right, that is the extent of the tree campuses in Indiana currently. And those are both elementary schools. So to be clear, we would be the first high school in Indiana to receive this recognition. And as we're planning, never in the planning process was it like, hey, let's do something to look good. But as we kind of moved along, we noticed a side aspect of this is going to be positive publicity for Huntington North if we can succeed in our goal. We don't know exactly what that will entail, but I would anticipate that if we are the first in a state to achieve something, that's going to go along with some positive recognition. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Is that me as well?
It's not mine. I think it's yours.
All right. So we're in phase one right now. Sorry for that little miscommunication, but we're in phase one. And as you can see, we're already pretty far into our goals. We've assembled a team, as you can see. We partnered with HNHS administration. We gave this presentation to them in advance to run things by them. And then right now, we're partnering with the HCCS school board. So we're already about halfway there through phase one. And then we also want to partner with Earth Charter. And could you explain a little more on Earth Charter?
So Earth Charter is just a foundation, and Catherine is actually who introduced us to this foundation because she's a part of it. So it's a foundation that's interested in financially supporting groups like ours in high schools that want to just raise environmental awareness. And so they're willing to partner with groups like ours and give us financial support and also just other kinds of support and advice in how we can move forward and make change in our school.
Absolutely. And the final note on that slide is just the steps that I've already mentioned to reach that Campus USA recognition, and that's the final step of Phase 1. If we could move on to the next slide, thank you. Phase 2.
So phase 2 of our plan is more of a long-term kind of thing. So we've been talking about so I'm going to have to describe it. So the strip of land that's between us and the back of the strip mall where the tailgating before home football games, that's what we're talking about when we say the strip of land. So we'd like to beautify that. And so obviously we're going to have to get a lot of support for this and a lot of OKs. So that's going to come from both the administration team and the school board once again. And we've actually already met with Jake Wyatt, and we'll have to pair with him in the future. But he came during one of Mr. Park's APES periods and talked to us about the native plants that should be planted there because it's a really specific kind of habitat. There's a lot of water that stands in that area, so that's something we'll have to be attentive to. So yeah, we actually already talked to him, but like I said previously, we'll pair with him once again in the future. And then Mike Snelling is another guy that we're going to have to talk to. He's the director of GIS, so he works with the city engineering department. And he's mapped out all the infrastructure beneath the land and both above with power lines that we're going to have to be aware of just to decide what kind of plants that are going to grow there. And then we're going to have to obviously create a plan. I mean, it's an idea now, but when it comes time, we'll have to have a conceptual plan with step-by-step so we can get it done. And then funding options, so talking with Earth Charters, schools, or even community members who would be interested in giving us some support for this. And then we'll present the final plan to the administration and the school board again, so, everybody's on the same page and we can move forward. So, next slide, please.
So this image here on the screen just represents the red line. That's right where we're talking about. So that's the parking lot that the students park in. And then above the red line, that's the strip mall that we're talking about right there. So that image is just representing of the location of where we're talking about. And then this image right here just demonstrates one of the challenges that we're going to come in contact with, which is just simply put the snow removal. We're not 100% sure what the solution is going to be, whether that's going to be the strip of snow that's just like there, or if we want to pile it up or something like that. Not 100% sure what's going to happen there. Obviously, we need to be in contact with, the snow plow removal team, but also the maintenance team here at Huntington North to make sure they're okay with it as well. Because frankly put, high schoolers don't have BMWs and Cadillacs. They have less than ideal cars for most of them. So oftentimes they leak oil, they leak transmission fluid, all sorts of stuff like that. And that stuff soaks up into the snow, and the snow is then being pushed into the grass. So we're going to have to combat that with some sort of way. We haven't 100% figured out a solution to that quite yet.
Could I add a note on that slide before we move on? As you can see, there's opportunity for beautification right here. And that's not a knock towards the businesses there at all. That comes always with the rear of a business. But we also recognize that our high school is right there. And we talked with Mr. Daggett about this. And one thing he noted is, when people come to a school, the first thing they notice about it is what it looks like and what it looks like around. And, right now, that's nothing fascinating or eye-catching. But in our mind, we envision an area where plants and trees are thriving, and that will take time, obviously, but that will greatly increase the aesthetic of this area. Thank you.
So the benefits of all that we're going to try to do in the future is obviously beautification of our campus, like Isaac talked about. When people come here, if the school looks, really cool, then that's going to be better than the latter if it doesn't. And then also privacy factors. So something that we've also envisioned and talked about is doing projects between us and the highway. So that's going to increase privacy for the school. So that's going to be another benefit. That's obviously way down the road, but it is a benefit that could eventually occur. And then space for mental health benefits. So a common denominator in all the discussions between us and administration for the strip of land beautification is that we want it to be a space for all students to go outside and enjoy for various classes. And we know that being outside in nature is often healing. So we know that it's going to be a great place for mental health benefits. That's definitely a vision that we would like to have for that. And then engaging other young students to continue the program and be environmental stewards. That's one of our main goals because, like Isaac also said previously, we don't want this to just fizzle out once we're gone and graduated. We want it to continue on, and we want not just for the school, but we also want that for the environment. So teaching others how to be environmental stewards. Environmental benefits, the list is long, but those are the big ones. Carbon sequestration, sound barriers, water filtration, air filtration, and reduced runoff. But like I said, there's a lot more. Mr. Park could probably go into lots of detail about that. And then connection between us and the other high school classes and also other high schools. So we've talked about pairing with FFA and other science classes. We have a greenhouse here. So we envision maybe pairing with other ag classes to grow some of our plants, because that would be a great way to involve other students and just to make them proud of what we're doing. So it's not just like, oh yeah, the green team made that pretty cool. Like, give them a sense of pride that they put work into it as well as us. And then other beneficial partnerships, we've talked about those previously, so yeah.
There we go. Perfect, thank you. So there's obviously lots of benefits to our goals and our ideas, but there are a few challenges. We don't see these challenges necessarily as one side wins and one side loses. I'm sure you guys see that all the time, where a policy is proposed and one group is really upset because they might feel taken advantage of, or they might feel like they're losing something. But something we firmly believe is, and we can elaborate on this going forward much more, but we don't believe that there's an aspect of this where someone is hurt or where anyone is at loss. And in fact, we believe that everyone will benefit greatly to some extent or in various ways from the ideas that we have. But there still are a few challenges we might run into. The first one is sustainability of the group. So how do we make sure, as we've noted previously, that this does not fizzle out? We've talked with HNHS administration, and there are a few safety concerns. There are electrical lines in this strip of land that we specifically talked about, also plumbing and water lines, so those could potentially be an issue, but as we plan this more directly, we're going to work around those things precisely. And then we also have to make sure that we plant the right stuff. As McKenna talked about, native plants, as Jake Wyatt presented to our group, those are huge. So obviously all plants are good, but native plants are even better in this regard. And then this would also take some maintenance, but we believe with our group, and as we continue to grow it, the maintenance aspect would not be much of an issue, because everyone in our group is super excited about it, and they're all willing to put in the little bit of work that it would take to maintain this. Funding is another issue, but that again, we don't see that to be as much of a challenge as you would anticipate it being. As McKenna mentioned with Earth Charter, they could help fund us, and then there's also lots of private donors throughout the community that are very on board with our ideas. And then finally, Max's picture noted there's potential for, we live in Indiana, he said, snow comes, and if we fill this area with trees, that's taking away an area that they pile snow, but we'll have to be conscious of that and potentially leave some space untouched for the snow. And at this time, that's the conclusion of our presentation. So thank you all for your attentiveness and your time. But I would also like to ask that if anyone has questions or comments, please let us know or share those with us now.
Questions, comments from any of you?
I'll start. Thanks for bringing this in front of us. I think it's a great initiative. I'm like you, I don't see many negatives to this at all. I do have a question. So how big is your team right now?
Currently, we have 12, and that's without any advertising. And so as we continue to have our APES class, AP Environmental Science class, that's where we see the sustainability of the group coming from. And because one of the things that we want to ensure is that looking long-term, that it's not a burden upon maintenance, it's not a burden upon, the custodial staff here, what have you. One of the things and Mr. Hamill, who's been really active in this as well, really wanted to impress upon the students is the fact that this is how things get done. You throw ideas out there, people make comments on them, people ask questions, and so I am super proud of this group for kind of stepping up and saying, we're going to go through the right procedure and take it step by step and kind of set the foundation for what's to come next, which they probably will never see, which I think is kind of exciting that they, all good ideas start with a dream, and that's where they're at right now. And so the purpose of this was to make sure everybody's on the same page. And because, and we were super excited to be at a work session because that's where ideas get thrown out. And so any questions, any comments that any of you have are greatly appreciated.
Okay, other comments, questions from anybody?
Thanks for bringing it to us early, because I think you're going to run into a stumbling block that we need to help you guys take care of. If I remember correctly, Mr. Trout, we don't own that whole strip.
Yeah, so Cindy, if you would go back to the slide with the red line right there. So board, what you see the two, so this is Poplar Street, I call it Poplar Street Extended, all right? And it's ironic, the mayor and I were just having this conversation today. So see Cindy's cursor right, as she goes up there, right there, about half that red line is owned by the city to about a little farther right there. And then the rest of that line to Viking Lane is owned by the school district. And so, this is your lucky day, guys, is because we were just getting ready in the next month with two new school board members to re-look at this piece with the city, okay? Because on the right side of that is our signs, remember? And the city had some concerns regarding code issues with it's technically their property, but our sign is on their property. But if we own the property, it wouldn't be a problem, blah, blah, blah. We, right now as a district, do all the maintenance of that entire red strip there. The problem is from that cursor down about halfway, it's pretty swampy in there because there's some summers we can't even get a tractor across there to mow. And so if you remember right, the five of you that were on the board, we were just starting to have these conversations last year, the pros and cons of us taking over that property along the way. And so students, if the school board decides to move forward, welcome, you can join the party, so to speak. And I mean, seriously, you can see how that entire process works within that. But no, I don't think that's any reason for us not to continue to support this program, other than the fact is we have to work out those details with the city yet.
Yep. And I do know that's, I just happen to remember that Brent Keplinger had also recently talked about that and just reminded me that, hey, you guys ever going to move forward with that?
Yes, because the difference is with two new school board members, I was waiting for them to get their feet on the ground and get going. And then when somebody wants to gift you something, you always have to stop and think about the pros and cons. And you guys are exactly right. We have done the study with what's underneath the ground there, and you hit the nail on the head of everything that's running through there right now. The history lesson is when this property was bought back in the mid-'60s, late 60s, for whatever reason, this parcel right here has never been addressed. And so you give us a little extra motivation to address it at this point in time, and that's what we got coming, that's what we have as a board coming forward. Okay?
So I would also say it could be a great science project at some point for the AP class to maybe help us figure out some of that wetness there and figure out if there's plants there that could help us improve that as well. So
You know,
it's
go ahead.
been it's been a huge benefit to have Catherine as a liaison to the mayor and to the city. And we knew that there was kind of a gray area, I guess, with ownership and, is it these 3 feet? Is it these 6 feet? And as soon as we had Jake Wyatt out there, he saw all of the swale, the swamp, as a huge benefit.
Oh.
And he immediately rattled off a dozen, if not 24 plants that could easily be put in there, not only for to help remove the runoff, but for the pollutants as well that we all contribute to in that process. So it was interesting how, those of us who want dry land, for some people, that's not the most beneficial thing. And so we're actively looking into those types of issues.
So, board, what we will do is, it's two-pronged here, is A, if you're in agreement to move forward and for their documentation purposes, we could easily place this on the 24th board meeting under consent agenda, since we're discussing it this evening, to support their progress moving forward, which is just another level of documentation they would have. 2 is that I will reach back out to Mayor Strick, but to get more information, and as a board, maybe coming up and at the board meeting or a future work session, is discuss this. About half that property there is what's in question within that. Lastly, the tailgating goes on just at the farthest reaches left. Knowing, if you notice the last couple of football games, they moved that. And I think that would even give you some more space there to do what you wanted to do, because I think in the future, the tailgating aspects will occur. As you can see at the top left-hand corner here, those areas are what's being used, and then at the gate entrance and so on and so forth. So I think that could be easily done. Mr. Park, I'll stay in touch with you if we're working with the city and the school board through this, and you guys want to, with your students, watch how that process works. We would gladly incorporate you into those steps. So
We would appreciate that.
yes, little government action too.
Absolutely.
It's ready to go. But I want to tell you, you 3 are very impressive. I'm not sure at 18, the time that all 3 of you were talking, I could sit there in front of all of us as adults and do that. You are impressive people, and I am grateful for each one of the 3 of you. You're incredible students, and we're very proud of all 3 of you. And Mr. Park, anything that you touch, anything that you have your hands in leading students is always top-notch. And again, this is just another example of you and working with kids and students, and the impact you're having on students is amazing. And so thank you for what you do, too. The smiles on their 3 faces say it all about that, but we are grateful for you also.
Thank you.
Board, any other comments, questions? So we'll bring this to consent agenda, and then I'll keep Mr. Park abreast of what we're doing with the city, with the rest of this, and we'll kind of include you in that process also. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Dodd, thank you for your patience. You can come up and join the table. Pat, we'll turn this section over to you then, okay?
So this evening we have Dodd Catman with us from MKM Architecture regarding the possibility of some parking lots and tennis courts that need to be done hopefully this summer if all goes well and the bids come in and we're able to do that. And there's actually a 4th lot depending on what bids come in at if we can fit that in the project as well. So I'll turn it over to Dodd.
Thank you. And Mr. President, is there anything that you would like me to focus on? Otherwise, I can give you a bit of background of who we are and what
Yeah,
we're doing.
well, let's do this, okay? You're new to us,
I am.
not new to me necessarily. We've met a few times. We just need to do a little backtracking here to bring you up to speed here. As all of you know, we are keeping Mr. Thornsberry enormously busy, and quite frankly, have just about maxed him out here with the high school, the restrooms, the ceremony, you name it. We've got Terry and his entire team very, very busy. So, in a conversation late fall, Terry and I were discussing an extra set of hands, so to speak, to come in and help us with parking lots so he can remain focused on some of the other pieces. And so Dodd was suggested to us as that person who could potentially help us. Terry is not going anywhere. Viridian is not going anywhere. But MKM is another level of supports with Mr. Thornsberry that we're using here right now. Terry's somewhat got his fingers in on this too, but Dodd is really helping us make sure we can get this to the finish line. So we thought we would take just a couple minutes to have you explain who you are, your company, the work that you've been doing, just so they have some familiarity with you, Dodd, okay?
Perfect, and
Yep.
thank you for having me tonight. Again, as you've heard, my name is Dodd Katzman. Our firm is MKM Architecture and Design. We've been around for quite a while now. We're a firm of about 30 people based in Fort Wayne, although we have some roots in Indianapolis and another city soon. We are a firm of architects, interior designers, and planners. So when we work on most projects or larger projects, we'll bring in mechanical, electrical, engineers, low voltage systems. We have a whole gaggle of team members that we're working on currently at Homestead High School between theater consultants and data consultants and food service consultants, and you name it. You've probably all had similar experiences on some of your projects. I personally do quite a bit of community work. I do work with school systems. I do work with civic organizations. I do work with life plan communities. In fact, several years ago, just up the road at Heritage Point, we did a large expansion right across the street from Crestview. And perhaps my most important quality is I am married to an educator, so they rank very highly in my thoughts. And in fact, for years, Deb was a teacher at Roanoke Elementary School, and then from there moved on to early childhood learning after that. So I have a lot of connections there. We do quite a bit of libraries across the state, and in fact across the Midwest. And years ago, we did the library here in town as well as other projects. Schools, we do everything from capital projects, summer maintenance work, have worked with different school systems, doing some work now with Rochester, done work with Fort Wayne Community, with Steuben County, Easttown County, and quite a bit of work actually at Southwest Down County. So between new schools, renovations, additions, and the current monster that we're on 6 years of the hostage crisis here going. It's a very long, drawn-out process of new construction and renovation that'll amount to about 750,000 square foot when all's said and done this fall. And I hope I don't have to take that back. So we're counting on that. I guess I probably have a lot of values that are consistent, I think, with Terry's, who you know very well, I know, in that we're big believers on doing what we say we'll do. And I wasn't going to go through the brochure in detail. I'm not sure that's important to you, but I'll say it's either the last page or the second to last page. I've included a copy of our quality control process, which we take very seriously on every project. So currently, as Superintendent Trout mentioned, we're helping you out to work on Crestview, Riverview, Salamone, and Lincoln. Hopefully, all four of those schools get your parking lots back up to speed.
Questions for Dodd? Comments, questions?
Appreciate you taking the time to come and introduce yourself to us. Honestly, it was really just kind of about that. We've been very comfortable, obviously, with Mr. Thornsberry, and hadn't had a chance to meet with you or hear from you. So taking the time to do this is important to us. I really appreciate that so much. I see with the Homestead project, you got time to do anything else? I mean, I've been by that thing a while, so.
That's been a monster. And we're teamed with a firm from Indianapolis named CSO. So we each have close to half of the architectural plus all the specialty consultants that are involved on that. So we're just at the end of construction now, going through progress meetings, every week and trying to keep that one on track.
Yeah. Terry asked for some extra support and help just from the sheer standpoint of timelines coming up here and trying to get bids in and doing all those type of things. As you know, this right now, he is very busy just here at the high school with that. And for us to get these parking lots in, out, bid, and do that, when Terry and I were having conversations, like I said, late fall, this was a suggestion of his and one in which I gladly supported with that too. So, other comments, questions that you may have at this point in time for MKM?
As an architect, what are your qualifications in looking at pavement and parking lots?
We also have a civil engineer on our team. I mean, I've worked almost every project we do has pavement of some type. And we have a civil engineer that we're also working with. I'm not a person going out and doing core samples of the pavement and going through specialty testing.
Who's your engineer?
Gensick Engineers, Pete Gensick is the civil engineer that's teamed with us.
All right. My name's Aaron Carl. I'm actually a civil engineer and a land
Oh,
surveyor.
okay.
I build parking lots a lot.
Okay.
So I was just questioning.
No, thank you. Well, and in this case, for the most part, it's milling off 1.5 inches and putting a surface coat back on and restriping. But as you can imagine, as you know, there are a lot of areas that need more intensive work done. So the art is trying to decide where to start and stop. Oh, and by the way, the project includes tennis courts also at Crestview. So
I was just getting ready to bring that up. Yes, too. So, not at the high school.
At both the middle schools, I thought?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your question.
Any other comments or questions for MKM? Well, Dot, it's good to see you. Thank you for spending a few moments with us and for them to get to know you. We have so much trust with Terry that we just wanted an opportunity to spend a couple minutes with you with that, with this process also, okay? Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, when we met a couple months ago, it was discussed about the possibility of having Mr. Stevenson come in. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
How are you?
All right.
Good. Before Matt starts, Matt is a teacher here at the high school. Has been with us for a couple of days. How many years have you taught, Matt?
22 years.
22 years teaching here at Huntington North High School. And he's also the president of our insurance trust and does an absolutely outstanding job. And I appreciate you and your leadership in that endeavor, Matt. That's not easy. And so what he's going to do this evening is spend a few minutes with you sharing about our employee benefit trust. And then you'll have ample time to ask him any comments or questions that you may have about this too. So Matt, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, John. As John said, I teach here at the high school, and I feel really loud. Probably about 5 years ago, I was elected to be the president of the trust. I had been on the trust for probably 7 or 8 years prior to that. So just a little information about the trust. The trust was established in agreement with HCCSC and the employees of Huntington County Community Schools basically exactly 30 years ago. The trust is made up of 10 voting members. There are 5 administrators, and there are 5 teachers. We have 4 non-voting members, and as you look on the screen up there, our trust administrator is Julie Shearer, and Julie is responsible for writing all the checks for claims and everything. So Julie does a great job. I am eternally grateful for Julie's work. She is great at what she does. And just another part of our team is LHD Benefit Advisors, specifically Ben Fuelberth. We have been working with LHD advisors for over 10 plus years, and we have a great working relationship with them. And prior to that, we had a gentleman named, prior to Ben, we had Jeff Haddon from LHD Advisors, and he's since retired, so you can go ahead and move on. I think one thing I just wanted to mention here as we're discussing this is, I guess I don't want to say it's misconception necessarily, but mainly just a misunderstanding of how the trust works. I think a lot of times people think the trust, that our claims are paid, like currently we are going to be working with Anthem, starting in this year. We started in January 1. I think a lot of people think that Anthem pays our claims, but that is not true. We're a self-funded plan, and so all of our claims that go through are paid through the premiums that HCCSC pays and that the employees pay for their part. So all of that gets deposited every 2 weeks now, every paycheck, and those go into the checking account for the trust, and then Julie, she takes the time to write all the checks for all those claims that come through that are processed through currently Anthem. And so I've also included the breakdown of premium collection for the general classifications of all the employees and how much each classification pays out of their paycheck and how much HCCSC pays. So you can go ahead. Thank you. So I guess the biggest thing that I need to address here is the plan performance over the last several years. That has been the largest nugget that we've had to struggle with over probably since even 2 years before I was the president here. It's just been rising cost of insurance has just been outlandish. So as you take a look at this graph, and I will tell you these graphs have come from LHD. They supplied those to us. This is the most recent graph. We are going to be meeting actually Thursday of this week, and I'm sure we will have a new updated graph for 2024. But as you take a look, those bars are just showing the budget and the plan, the expenses, and you can see since basically 2018, it has been a real struggle. And we've continued to, although we've not been meeting the goal here in terms of matching the budget here, we've still maintained staying under kind of the trend. I suppose you could make an argument that we're not staying under the trend, but in terms of maintaining costs as best as we possibly can at this moment, we're doing decently. So you can see up in the upper right-hand or left-hand corner there, the trust is over 10 years have been increasing by about 4.4%, but the trend is 6%. So here's similar graph, and the top line at the top is showing our reserves, and you can kind of see, what is that, about 2013, 2017, we had some relatively high reserves. We were sitting pretty. And then, again, the inflation of medical costs have really hit us hard. And you can see over there on the far right-hand side, after the IBNR, that's the incurred expenses that just haven't processed yet. We were estimating at the end of 2023, again, please understand that there's data out there for 2024, but it just hasn't totally compiled. And as a trust, we haven't gotten all of that just yet. We will hopefully have that on Thursday, though. But at the end of that year, we were sitting at about $2.3 million. And again, you can see those, since 2015, we've had struggles to stay under budget. So this is 2024. This is the best I have for you at this point in terms of what the 2024 year looked like. And this has been pretty typical the last few years. As we kind of get to the middle of the year, you can see that gigantic light blue spike. Those are claims, and you can see where we're at. At that point in the year, we were at 103% of the budget, so we were over budget at that point, and then we dropped back below the next month, and then it kind of kept trickling up, and then what happens every single year, happens every year, not to be unexpected there, but come December, everybody's getting those last things done, having those major surgeries. A lot of people have met deductibles. The plan just takes a real hit at the end of the year, and the hope is that we've stayed under budget enough throughout the entire year that by the time we get to December that we can stay under budget with December. But it just hasn't happened the last few years. So the primary driver of our not staying under budget here are high claims. If you aren't aware, being a self-funded plan, we have stop-loss coverage in the tune of $175,000. So we pay all those claims up until $175, the trust does, and then once we reach $175,000, it's essentially our insurance on our insurance. So we will get reimbursed for everything that goes over $175,000 per member. So last year, you can see in 2024, we had 7 members reach stop loss. Now, I don't have the actuarial charts to know exactly what the expected number is, but through numerous meetings, usually for a group our size, they usually say around 5 to 6. So I talked to Ben, he's again our advisor, and he said, you're running high in terms of the number of people who've reached stop loss. Now, that's not the only issue. We also had 12 members that their claims exceeded $90,000. And I was looking at the data that we had received, and of the 19 of those people that had a reached stop loss or getting up really high, 18 of 19 are still actively enrolled. Some of those things kind of fall off because they're just like one-time things, but some of them might be cancer or whatever else that just they never go away. Well, hopefully go away, but those things are some of those things are just continuous, and they'll be on our books for a while potentially. So last year we had $755,000 of reimbursements from stop loss. So you think about $755,000. That's more than a month of claims that we would normally expect. Ideally we would expect to see about $550,000-ish in claims. I shouldn't say that. $550,000 in expenses in a month, and we're talking $750,000 in stop loss reimbursements for the year. So we're talking over a month of reimbursements that we had to get back. We had to pay them, but then we get reimbursed for those.
Matt, talk a little bit about, if you just elaborate, why that $90,000 figure is so important, why we mark that, because that could be easily lost in this.
Yes. So the $90,000 obviously is a large number. Okay, so when we're talking about those people that are reaching stop loss, when they're accumulating claims, when they get to 175, it's kind of like, okay, we don't have to pay for those anymore. But then those people that are over $90,000, if something else happens for them, we still are paying those claims. That's a large amount that they're not reaching that stop loss, but we are still responsible for everything that they have until they reach that. So that $90,000, when I was sent this information, that was kind of the cutoff that they use. Like, these are your really high claim amounts that haven't reached stop loss at this point. Go ahead. Thank you. So this data is not completely accurate at this point because it's obviously been 2 weeks and we're constantly every week paying claims and everything. So as of January 31st, the checking account that Julie writes claims checks from had $251,000 in it. Now I do have a qualifier to say on that in just a second. Now, back in the late fall, I guess early winter, HCCS has dedicated to make bi-monthly payments. We were only getting premium payments into the account once a month, and that sometimes disrupted cash flow. We'd get a little low, and we still had to wait a couple weeks or wait a week before those claims got into the checking account. So having those premiums come in every 2 weeks, the hope is that will help with cash flow as we're writing checks. The PNC, there's two PNC accounts. The PNC operating is basically a money market account. That's funds that have been taken out of the reserve account. The reserve account is an investment account, and so we have to keep some money in that operating account for essentially emergencies. If we have a claim run that is just too big to, bless you, if we have a claim run that's just a little bit too big to cover with what's in the checking account, then we can use that operating fund to transfer over. So as of the end of January, we had approximately 909,000. That is the lowest I've seen it. Okay. Now, that 251,000, again, that was at the very end of January. Since that time, obviously more claims have come in. We are working on the runoff of UMR. I'll talk about that in a moment. And now we're also starting to get some new claims from the new insurance year. So we're kind of finishing up the previous year and starting to work on the beginning of this year. And I will address that a little bit more as we move ahead, I think. You can go ahead. Thanks, Cindy.
Is that actually January 31st of 2025?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That should be 2025. Thank you. So the biggest issue is how do we try to mitigate those costs? How can we find ways to try to keep ourselves under budget and try to grow our reserves? So twice in the last 5 years, we've explored moving to Parkview Signature Care. We've looked into that closely. We've been right on the doorstep 2 different times. And both times it was just, and again, I want to remind everybody that this is a 10-person team. This is not a me decision. The team decided that it just didn't make sense at that time. The primary reasons I've written up there is that the verifiable savings were minimal. I think the first time we looked at it, it would have maybe saved about 2%. If I recall correctly, it's been about 4 or 5 years ago, was about 2%. And we didn't feel that at 2% it was worth the disruption and care for everybody. And so that was part of the reason. And the verifiable savings, and again, I want to be careful about what I say here, but the information that Parkview will give us is what they say, but we have to go by what we know and the factual numbers that we can fully evaluate. And so while they say this is not completely accurate, we can't prove that through the numbers. So we can have them do repricing on everything. And like I said, there's just things that we can't verify. The other reason that we haven't moved to a Parkview Signature Care is because of the limitations of network accessibility. People have their opinions about Parkview, and we just try to keep our network as broad as possible. And then, as you may have heard in the last year or so, actually longer than that, is there's concern about Parkview pricing. So I'm not going to get into that any further because I'm sure we've all heard that. So a couple of years ago, well, it was a couple of years ago, yeah, we started a paid health program. We did that for 2 years. Essentially, that was looking for alternative sources of specialty drug funding. So that was one of those programs that kind of run its course, and paid health was kind of running out of options on finding that alternative care, so it wasn't as beneficial as it was when we first started. Last year, we tried to work with Garner Health. We did that for a year. What that was doing is trying to send members to preferred providers, and if they went to those preferred providers, they potentially could have been reimbursed for their care. So that I had talked to several people that had done that, and they were very happy with that. We just couldn't get people to use it. The main thing, I think, they were just not happy with their choices of people. There was an app that they could use. They could get on there, but I just think that was the main issue. They go, though the doctor that I want to use is not on the app, so we just had low utilization. So that was the reason we walked away from that. The wellness incentive, probably 5 years, probably before I was president, was $800. We had members could get their blood drawn. There's lots of different requirements, but out of the trust funds, so again, HCCSC isn't paying this, it's coming from the trust funds. We would offer a wellness incentive of $800 to the HSA accounts of our members. That was a drop down. We dropped that down to $700, I think my first or second year on. And then I think the year after that, we had to drop it down to $350 because it became obvious that we can't afford to do that. So we're still trying to give them something. And then this year we did away with it, partly because we also had to do away with HSAs in general. So we were in the process of eliminating that anyway, but it's kind of a moot point at this point with our plan. And then the last thing on that list, I think I had one more that I wrote down, was we also explored the idea of using a preferred clinic provider and working with Cardinal Family Medicine. We were really excited about this opportunity, working with Cardinal Family Health over there beside Starbucks. And we were excited about the opportunity of having direct primary care with them. Our members would have had access to that primary care. Hopefully working with Dr. Flieger over there would have given the opportunity to catch some of those things as they were experiencing health issues, and he would be kind of on part of our team to help them explore and get to providers that he or we deemed as quality providers. Unfortunately, again, the cost risk of that was too high. I think we were talking somewhere around $500,000 to do that, and again, with the position that we were in, it just wasn't feasible. So we're hoping that if we can get ourselves back on solid footing, we can try that again, because again, without the guarantee that people are going to utilize that, essentially that's just money flying out the door with no guarantee of the savings coming back to us. So essentially, we've tried a lot of things, we've explored a lot of options, but essentially the main thing that we have control over, that we can try to do, because obviously the people using their insurance is what we want them to do, but we can't control how much that costs necessarily, is through plan design. So you can flip this slide there for me a couple times, I suppose. So let me give you an idea of what the plan looks like as of today and the changes that were made for 2025. So before I start this, there are significant changes for 2025. So we've made some serious plan design changes. I've talked to several people. I've had several people come to me and said they're very happy with what's going on right now. In fact, Mr. Park just said something to me before he left. He said he really likes how this new insurance plan is working. So we have been on a high deductible health care plan for many years. I can't even tell you exactly how long we've been on one, but it's been for many years. So we're switching over to a PPO plan. So we're moving from UMR to Anthem Health Sync Network. And Anthem Health Sync Network is a PPO. And what that does is it makes Lutheran Health Network the tier 1 provider for us. Essentially what that means for members is that's lower copays for them and lower deductibles for them. Parkview is tier 2. Okay, and that's always been a struggle to think about that because they are in our backyard. But unfortunately, they are the highest cost healthcare provider. One of the highest in the state, unfortunately. So going to Parkview will cost our members higher copays and higher deductibles. Now, I think there's been some misconception from people. It's been communicated out numerous times, but even then there's still misconception. And so I want to clarify that with all of you, that members have full access to both of those networks. There is no limitation on going to Parkview or going to Lutheran. So I think sometimes some members were confused about, I'm signing up for Lutheran or Parkview. That's not the case. They have both options available to them at all times. It's just Parkview will cost them more. And of course, when they go to Parkview, it's going to cost the plan more. So that's why we have to do that. For the first time in, years, I couldn't even tell you again when was the last time we had copays. So our members will be paying copays when they go see the doctor, and it's on one of those later slides we'll get to in a second. Deductibles are now embedded. Just kind of explain what that means. Embedded deductibles mean that each member of the family has their own deductible. So what that's really good for, it's really good for families that have like one particular person in that family who uses a lot of the health care. So that person only has to meet that single deductible, whether that be $2,000 or $3,000, depending on the plan they signed up for. And then they're moving on to, the insurance is then covering everything with the co-insurance. Before, it was a non-embedded deductible, meaning you had to meet the entire deductible for the entire family. So even if this one person was the one using all the health care, that one person had to get to the deductible before insurance kicked in. So again, that is good for families especially. So I mentioned it earlier about HSAs. HSAs are not supported under this plan, and the reason is legally we can't provide them. And the reason is we can't provide them is because when people go see their doctor and they're paid with a copay, the insurance is paying the rest of that visit. So the insurance is paying first dollar coverage for that visit. And so because of that, just legally, we can't allow employees to have an HSA. Now, they still have the option of opening an FSA if they choose to with American Fidelity, but that's their decision. We have TrueScripts as our pharmacy benefit manager. We've been working with them for a couple years, and that seems to be going really well. Our premiums for this year increased 11.5%. With this switch, we were actually looking at a 17% increase if we did not switch. Switching to this plan, we also increased that bottom line to try to help the reserves, to try to build those reserves a little bit. So we're hopeful that that amount right there, that's 12.5% increase, will get us more on stable footing, help us build some of those reserves as we work through the rest of this year. So I think that was all I need. On this screen are the monthly premiums that members pay. There's two main columns to that. There's PPO Plan 1 and PPO Plan 2. PPO Plan 1 and 2 are essentially the same thing. The only difference is PPO Plan 2 is a little less expensive, but the deductible is higher. So there's a little bit of difference. I think I said that right. There's a little bit of difference between those in terms of the premium that the members pay. So I don't know that there's anything else I need to say about that screen. I know this is maybe a little hard to see unless you have it in front of you, but those are the copays that members would pay. You can see they're essentially the same thing from PPO Plan 1 and 2. You can see at the top under deductible, PPO Plan 2 does have a higher deductible. So let me just try to clarify this. If you just focus on PPO Plan 1, that's Tier 1 on the left side of that kind of reddish box. So that's if you were to go to Lutheran providers, your deductible would be $2,000. If you were in Tier 2, so if you're going to visit Parkview or any other Tier 2 provider, your deductible for that would be $5,000. But again, members have access to both, but it's just a higher cost. And you can see the deductibles and co-insurance for those two, how they compare. And one of the questions that I had been receiving from members, one of the concerns that they had, seeing that there was Tier 1 and Tier 2, and knowing that, hey, we're sitting in Huntington and the closest emergency care is Huntington Parkview, they were concerned about that. And I said, understandably, but the thing is that all emergency care is considered Tier 1. So if you get admitted to the hospital because of that emergency, that is supposed to all be under Tier 1 care, so under the cheapest amount. Now, if they admit you to the hospital for something not really related to that, whatever the hospital deems, however they code that, it could slide into Tier 2 if you're at Huntington Hospital. But emergency care is Tier 1, so that, again, I think that alleviated some concerns that some of our members had about that. Thank you. These next few slides are going to be pretty quick. Just Delta Dental. This year we bundled. This is interesting because Delta is also offering vision as well. They're partnered with VSP, which we've had for a while. So by bundling Delta Dental with Delta Vision, which is also VSP's network, there was a little bit of savings there, but the savings for dental and vision are usually pretty minimal. So you can go ahead and move on there. Hello. So there was the vision. Again, I don't think there's too much you need to say about that. And the last thing I just want to mention here is one of the things that is always a struggle is making sure our members understand how to use their care and what is available to them and what they can find and the information that they have available to them. So this year, LHD, our benefit advisor, has provided to us this service free of charge, and that's creating a hub for us that we have linked on our benefits page. This is not really what it looks like. I just took some screenshots of what that looks like, but allows them to go in and see the benefit guide very, very easily. It's right there at your fingertips. It's much more organized than it has been in the past. So I think if you click one more, there's another. Yeah, so this is just clicking on one of the links there, and we've got some 2025 frequently asked questions. So those are things that have been there since the fall. When we first did open enrollment, we had those frequently asked questions. So they can get all that information that they want. There's also an AI generated question and answer thing on there as well. So if they're looking for something specific, they can type that in, and that should give them a decent explanation what that is. So I've been working to, when I meet with people and or try to answer their questions through emails, which I usually how I get those things, I always try to steer them toward the hub. Say, this is the best place you can get your answer. I will try to answer their questions the best I can, but then try to steer them toward the hub. So that is my presentation. So if we have questions, concerns, Mr. Trout?
No, questions for Matt, comments?
Nice job, Mr. Stevenson. Very detailed. I do,
Spouses on our coverage.
even
that
if
is-
they're covered by another plan.
I'm sorry?
Even if they're covered
Yes.
by another plan.
So let me talk about that just a little bit. That is another thing we've looked at in terms of, we've talked about that. I won't say we looked into it too deeply, and there's a reason we haven't. But that has been one of the things we've discussed in terms of trying to find some ways to save the plan. The struggle that you have with that, and our advisor said he's seen this go both ways, is when you say, okay, we're going to carve out spouses, then is he seen it, pay off well? And he said it's been a disaster at times. And the very difficult part of that is to get that information from members and to know who really has insurance or whose spouses really have insurance and whose don't. The other issue is that when you start eliminating people, how many of those people are going to be your cheaper members and who's not? Are we eliminating people who are high-cost members? Are we eliminating people who are essentially not costing us anything? And obviously, when you're talking about carving people out, you'd want to keep the people who are cheap for you. So, but again, that's very difficult data to get to and to really know for sure, because that has to come directly from the members, without for sure knowing what we'd get into. It's just really difficult cliff to jump off of at this point. So, especially in the financial situation we're in. If we were in a little bit better financial situation, maybe we could explore that a little deeper, but yeah, just concerns.
Yeah, I mean, we have looked at a variety of specific pieces like that we could do. And what Matt has done a great job is the data that we have provided that we gave you this evening is our best plan moving forward to ensuring that we get to our bottom line.
Right.
And so we want to provide high-quality health care for our employees at a reasonable cost. I'm not thrilled about on a personal level on the Parkview piece, but as a whole, we felt like this was our best option moving forward for long-term sustainability, quite frankly. And so we're still giving our members they can go either direction with that. Obviously, there's one better than the other, but we're still open to that. And so when I first came in, I'm one of the first ones that brought out spousal carve-out within that. But Ben has done a tremendous job with the data saying, I'm not so sure that's going to get us to where we want to go with that. And so Matt's spot on with that. Good. What else, Deb?
Are mental health needs covered under the insurance policy?
Yeah, we also have employee assistance program, so that's also linked on the
Okay,
hub as well, so that's helpful as well.
very good. And do you have a relationship with any of the wellness facilities around the area, like the Y or some of the others, where they will give a discount to members who are participating in your insurance plan?
I'm sorry, I started speaking before you're quite done. I didn't catch the very end of what you said. I apologize. Oh,
Just wondered if any of the facilities around the county offer a discount for your members, like the Y or...
well, I think usually those things are usually discounts for the employees of Huntington County Community Schools when they offer those, not just specifically for the
insurance.
for the
but
insurance.
But they do have the
They have in the
opportunity.
past. I
Yes.
currently don't know what
I couldn't tell you.
options they have at this point.
Yeah, they usually, if the Y approaches us, they'll do it as the entire school community.
Right.
So it's not, I don't want to mislead you, it's not linked to the insurance plan. It's more done so, hey, there's usually the Y, with the Y, quite frankly, they send something out very early in the year. We have staff that takes advantage of that, but it's not linked to the insurance.
It's not
Right.
the insurance.
Yeah. Right, membership drive, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Other comments, questions? Matt, thank you. I'm sorry. Did you have one, Aaron?
Just a quick one on the co-pays and stuff. Does that come out of the deductible or is that additional?
So a copay does not count toward your deductible, but they do count to your out-of-pocket maximum at the end of the year. So, or whenever, if you get to that, it would count toward that. So deductibles do not count. As a general rule, again, pretty much any copay wouldn't count. So.
Others? Sorry, Aaron, didn't see you. Others? Well, Matt, thank you. It's very detailed, incredibly informative. We'll try to put you out here about this time every year. Excuse me, the update was spot on. I'll see you Thursday afternoon, but it's good to see you. Thank you. Up next, we are really excited to share this with you. Tiffany's just been almost jumping up and down for the opportunities to do this. I've seen a couple of these a couple weeks ago, and so I'm not going to steal your thunder, Tiffany. I'll let you take it from here, okay?
Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. I am really excited to share some new marketing materials with you. Last spring, the Learning Center was contacted by the Donwood Foundation and asked if we would like to participate in a marketing campaign centered around advanced manufacturing. We happily accepted their invitation, and Anchor Films out of Fort Wayne produced 2 videos for us. The first focuses on telling the story of one of our welding students and why she chose to participate in our program. We are thrilled with how this video turns out. We have put this on our Facebook page, the district website. We've shown it to every 8th grader in the county. And then we have a second video also that Anchor Films did that talks a little bit more specifically about the Learning Center. So I'm going to show you both of those now.
I'm Jasmine Shepard, and I'm a welder. Before welding, I wasn't a very motivated kid, like, at all. I would do my assignments and everything. If something wouldn't click with me, I was, like, too scared to ask about it, so I just kind of didn't. But, like, after welding, being able to see it firsthand, it was just so much easier. I think it was either 7th or 8th grade, I had a class that was for college careers and stuff. They showed, like, a slideshow thing of a bunch of different things they offered with the high school, and I saw the welding video, and the thing that stood out the most was just the fact that you can be creative with it, and also I just like playing with fire. The first time I welded, I was really nervous. I think as soon as I put the hood down and I got a bead down, I knew immediately that I would be doing this for ever. So definitely found my passion. So I have a chronic illness. It's called cyclic vomiting syndrome. A lot of teachers thought I was either trying to get out of class or just wanting attention. But here, instead of just send me home or brush me off, it was acknowledging it and redirecting me. Because there was a time where I thought that I would have to file for disability and everything. I didn't think I would be able to get a job. So it's really nice to have a job where it's got flexible hours and everything. So when I meet people, they'll tell me I'm lucky that I found it so early because they struggled a lot with what they wanted to do or went back and forth between different things they wanted. It's really cool to me that I have found this so early. I think in about a year I'll still be getting educated because I think my goal with this is to learn as much as possible. I kind of just want to learn every type of welding there is.
Start something big. Learn about career exploration opportunities at your child's school. Visit igniteadvancedmanufacturing.com for more information.
My name is Tiffany Drummond. I'm the principal of the Huntington County Community Learning Center. The Huntington County Community Learning Center is a collaborative partnership between our local school district, the community, and the industry. And we are here to provide that foundation for students to make really good choices for their future. We offer a variety of programs in advanced manufacturing, as well as healthcare, public safety, and automotive. Here at the Learning Center, we really stress the importance of transferable skills. We talk with our industry partners a lot about soft skills and what skills the students need to be successful, because typically those are transferable skills. So it's important to know how to program a machine, but it's equally as important to show up to work every day and to show up on time and put forth good effort. And that looks the same no matter what industry you're in. I think there's a perception sometimes that advanced manufacturing is dark and it's dirty and you're going to do the same job over and over, when really in a lot of areas it's evolved and it's clean environments, it's climate controlled, it's collaboration, it's integration of technology. You can do a variety of different things throughout your career, and that's something that we work to help our students understand and to show them that you can have so many different jobs within advanced manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing, it just really involves a lot of technology, and I don't think everybody realizes that. So our students, they've grown up in a tech environment, right? They're very, very comfortable with technology. That's such a bonus for them going into advanced manufacturing because it does involve so much technology and so many hands-on skills, and our students are a natural fit for that. If there's one thing I could tell people about our programs here is that they're an amazing opportunity for their students. They get to explore while still in high school. They're going to get some valuable industry knowledge, some dual credit, some certifications. The Learning Center is really for everyone, and it's a great opportunity.
Start something big. Learn more about opportunities in advanced manufacturing at igniteadvancedmanufacturing.com.
So both of those were completed last summer, and we're very grateful to the Don Wood Foundation for their support with those. Then last fall, the Community Foundation of Huntington County came to me, and they were actually piloting the Ignite Your Future campaign program for Huntington County, and they asked how they could best support the Learning Center. And we are constantly looking for new and better ways to connect with our students and to show them the opportunities that are available to them. And so where we landed was doing a series of 3 kind of promotional trailers that show the programs that are at the Learning Center. And so those are the 3 that we're going to take a look at now.
Every day we make choices that will determine the rest of our lives. Let us find our way together. Craft a stable path forward. And ignite your future.
What path will you choose? And how will you be remembered? Join us in this journey. And ignite your future. I want to see you make it to your destination. I want to see you build it. And I want to see you ignite your future.
So February is National Career and Technical Education Month. So as part of our Facebook campaign for public awareness, those are being unveiled each Friday. So if you go to our Facebook page, we're actually highlighting all 19 of our CT pathways this month. But we dropped the first one of those trailers this past Friday. Then they'll roll out each Friday. And then on the 28th, we have one more video that's almost done. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's a compilation that the trailers are based off of. So those are all coming out this month, and those were all filmed at the Learning Center and at our construction site this year. So those are all our students, our staff, and we hope to use those in a variety of ways. So to educate our community, to educate our students, those will be available to our guidance department. We'll be pushing those out on Canvas for students to have access to them. But it's just a way to really show students what they can do, because we know that they engage with media differently, right? Like the shorter videos tend to be more appealing. So we're just excited to share those on Facebook and Instagram. Do you have any questions?
Comments, questions? Tim?
Those are fantastic. I mean, I just told Mr. Child it was like watching a trailer for Lord of the Rings. I mean, that was really, really impressive and well done. Anxious to share those when I see them on social media. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I failed to mention, those were produced by Smiley Face Media here in Huntington. They did the shorter trailer ones, but they did a great job.
I was just going to ask, how is everything going with Area 18 and getting that transition? I know it's not quite what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but
no.
could you just brief update on that while you're here?
Absolutely. I actually had a great meeting with the state this past Thursday, and we have been advanced to the final step of that process. So it looks like they're going to do an on-site visit on the 20th. They're confirming the agenda, but they'll actually come into our programs, and then that would be the last step before we get official approval. So things are looking good so far.
Good. Letter went today, as a matter of fact, to the superintendents on Area 18 from that process also. So we are with an agreement on purchasing our own equipment back that we got from Perkins Dollars through Area 18. We have an agreement on both sides with that, and so we're close to getting that all finalized then. So I submitted a letter today with that agreement piece. If they accept that, we'll be bringing that back to you as the board for final approval then. So we are really close in this process right now.
And one thing I clarified with the state is, could we go ahead and do the local application to secure our own Perkins funding for this year? And it looks like we're going to be able to.
Cool.
So.
And I hesitated to think, but do Deb and Aaron know what I was talking about when I say that? Are you aware? Cool. Just want to make sure. Some of us have been around for a while and we know that, but I just want to make sure you guys are up on it.
Anything else for Tiffany? Tiffany, well done. These are extremely well done. I'm excited for our students to see that and see these. I think it's a great opportunity for them to get a little different look into the Learning Center, but you're doing a tremendous job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany.
All right, next, I just wanted to bring to your attention that the Calendar Committee, which is made up of teachers and administrators in the district, will be getting together soon. We'll be bringing you a set of 3-year calendars for your consideration. We are going to be, or I'm going to be proposing that next year's calendar, which you've already approved, we're going to remake it, taking off the 2-hour delays, okay? And so matching that. Also, we have some requests from some of our staff that if we would consider moving the fall conferences back a couple weeks till after the first 9-week grading period. I've even had some parents reach out to me to see if that would be possible. I think that makes a lot of sense also. All this to say, we're just letting you know that we're going to begin starting that process here within the next, I think it's week. Yeah, I got an appointment coming up here where we're going to get the calendar committee back together. But our intention is to work off of this current year's calendar and try to follow that as close as we can, maybe some minor adjustments. I bring this to you this evening. Is there anything else that you would like for me to take into consideration, at least initially in these rough drafts, to consider? Like I said, we'll take the 2-hour delays off for next year, possibly moving back the fall conference dates a couple of weeks. Anything else that you would like to see before I launch into this with the committee? Anybody got anything that you'd like to see?
I know there was questions about graduation, at least last year. Has any further discussion been had?
We really haven't. That's on my list. I got a folder full. I know that's in there. That's a tough one because I have just as many people telling me to leave it on a Sunday for family as I do people telling me that Sundays don't work. If you remember, I look back history-wise, the reason we did that is for our students who qualify for the state track meet, is allowing them the opportunity to participate in graduation. And we always seem to have several that make it to that level. So that makes sense to me too. But that's one of the things that we can talk about too.
I just know that there were some seniors that seemed to want to have a conversation, but I think we need to at least let them know that this is when we're having those conversations. So
right, absolutely.
The only other question is, I did actually just recently got asked over the weekend, we don't have the 2026 calendar out there anywhere to find? I didn't see it on the website, so.
Cindy?
The 25-26 calendar was up there on the website, but with it having 1 2-hour delay a month in it, we felt like it would be best to pull that down so as we don't cause confusion with the public. I can certainly share other dates with people. I've had a couple people ask me on some dates, and I've shared those.
I found a draft that was in our board docs, so I shared that draft, and I said, I thought this is what we did, but they were just looking for some specific things.
To not cause too much confusion for the public.
The only difference for next year is going to be just the 2-hour delays coming off.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. Anything else? Okay, items from the board. School board, any items that you would like to bring forward this evening?
Mr. Wall?
I was just going to give you a brief update on the board president leadership seminar that we both Tim and I were able to attend January 31st. I had to think about what the date was. It was a couple weeks ago. It was a fun time. A lot of interesting ideas that came out of there, but a couple of things that both Tim and I have been talking about since then that I thought would be good to get on the board's radar. One of the first things was one of the topics that we talked about was superintendent evaluations. Made me remember that we had 2 new board members here that are going to have to do their first superintendent evaluation in June. So I thought it might be a wise thing to maybe get together before June and maybe kind of get you caught up to speed on that, give you the idea of how we do that process here, and then also just open up the conversation of do we want to continue that process or do we want to move forward on that. One of the recommendations that they did bring about that was even having a mid-year, so this is a little late for a mid-year kind of check-in, but it may be a good thing to start, and then we can maybe even discuss about having a calendar of check-ins and stuff like that in the future. But just want to get that on your radar. I know my very first year on the board, I came in January, and then June they said, here, fill this out, and I'm like, huh? So I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. And I know that's just one of those things out there that we were talking about. So I know Tim has talked to John about that. I think we may just choose another night out of that and have an executive session to just kind of go over that as far as a evaluation process and how that goes, and just get in that and just get your feet wet so you're not completely shocked in June. It is a requirement that we do evaluate the superintendent every year. It is statute-wise that we have to do that evaluation, and we have to turn that in, so that's why it's important to kind of go over that and take care of that. The last thing, it came up, and it was interesting, then we had these conversations about that, and then lo and behold, it kind of slowly happened. One of the things that they talked about down there is just having a superintendent succession plan, not so much as he's gone and we have that process. It's more like he's out of the town or something along that lines, and just giving that ability to have the board have something approved about that. And it does kind of fall in line with the policy that we have if he's unavailable, how that goes, and that's policy 1260. It actually talks about incapacitation, but I just look at that. So just another thing to just maybe document, if John's not available and Chuck's sick, who do we talk to and stuff like that, and just have that something that we review on a yearly basis and do that type of thing, just of things to do that. So those were kind of very high-level things. As you can see, the book was rather large, and it was a good day session with a lot of different interesting ideas. There were some recurring themes. And I'm just going to end on the recurring theme that I actually took away that was actually kind of stuck with me in that. And it was something that I've heard, but it just really hit hard at that conversation, and it was mentioned a couple of times, but it was reminding us that as board members we should focus on the why and not the how. That we as the board should focus on the why, and the administration should focus on the how, and that should be our guiding principle going forward. So that's how I'm going to leave it for the day and go from there. So on that note, have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. One of the things you always have to worry about if you send a couple of board members to a conference down in Indianapolis, we're going to come back with a lot of cool stuff. So, we got ideas. And so, as Ryan said, we're going to try to set up a meeting, executive session with the board to review some of these things, particularly the evaluation part of this. It is very important. It literally is our most important job. We'll be talking a lot about that over the next 4 to 6 weeks for sure. Anybody else? I have something. Mr. Trout, do you have an update on the property at Salamone?
Yes. Joe, would you want to give us, if you want to come forward here and have a seat at the table, can you give us the latest as of this afternoon about the property at Salamone?
Well, as Tiffany indicated, the Area 18 is getting very close, and just as I was sitting there, I received the last piece of information from the town of Warren's attorney. So we are very close. If you recall, there were 2 parcels at Salamone where the school and the track sets, and then there was another piece that kind of wrapped around it. So there were 2 separate legal descriptions. The end result of what we're selling to the town of Warren is 2 parcels, but they don't match the original description. So we had to go through a survey process. The town commissioned that, paid for that. It didn't cost us anything. And that survey had to go through the DCD process, approval of a subdivision split and a lot line adjustment. That occurred last Tuesday, the 4th, that the DCD approved that. The survey, they hold it for the survey for 7 days, and so it will be released tomorrow. We are very tentatively set for possibly a Thursday closing. However, these restrictive covenants that I could show you my phone. I just got half hour ago. I'll have to review those to make sure that complies with what we want to have as restrictive covenants. So certainly, I would say by the end of the month at the various latest, but it could occur as early as this week or the week following. So I think we're sliding into home. We're not there yet, but the governmental approvals came last Tuesday, and that survey will be released tomorrow.
Comments, questions for Joe? Does that answer your question, Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. I'm sure you'll keep us updated as things progress. Thank you. Anything else from the members of the board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Wall, and do we have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Heim. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.